Bro, riding around in this crazy heat we've had lately is getting absolutely ridiculous. Like, sometimes you just want to stop at a gas station, go in and grab a damn ice cream cone, but who's got time to sit there and eat it? Luckily, with this guy, you don't have to. I mean, you don't want to sit there and let your ice cream melt.
What's going on, everybody? In this episode of Moto Gear Show, we're taking a look at the Schuberth E2, an adventure modular helmet that has more features than this ice cream had calories. The question is, are all of those features worth the extra weight and the price? Let's find out. If you guys are new here, welcome to Moto Gear Show, my show where I test motorcycle gear, specifically helmets, and I let you guys know if they're the right one for you. If you guys want to support this show, make sure to hit that like button, and when you're purchasing gear, use our affiliate links in the description down below. They don't cost you guys anything extra, but they go a long way for helping us keep making these awesome independent reviews for you guys. With all that being said, let's get into the E2. To start things off, let's go over the specs and the features of the E2 so we kind of have a broad understanding of what this helmet even is and what it's bringing. So the Schuberth E2 is a premium modular ADV helmet coming in at a price tag of $899, and that depends on which graphic you go with. So this helmet's going to be kind of focused on that adventure touring and commuting crowd, and it's going to be using a lightweight fiberglass shell reinforced by carbon fiber. Now, of course, it's DOT certified, and an interesting note here, the E2 is actually built to the ECE 2206 standard, but for some reason in the US only, it doesn't carry that sticker. So it's kind of strange, but something to note if you guys are looking into this helmet. Also with this helmet, you've got two different shell sizes. One shell size goes from extra small up to a large, and then that second shell size is going to handle the extra larges all the way to the 3XL. Weight-wise, this helmet's going to come in at a weight of 1,675 grams. For my American people out there, that's just under 3.7 pounds. Now, that's not the lightest for sure, but for a modular helmet with this many features, it's actually kind of expected. Now, a couple other things, the visor is pen lock ready. It has a drop-down sun shield, and it obviously has a peak on it. That peak has 3 different positions it can go into, and it's removable. Now, touching on ventilation real quick, we are going to have 2 vents in the front chin area. Something to note that's kind of cool here about these is they are actually designed to bring in air without bringing dust and debris, which is a small little detail that a lot of helmet manufacturers are skipping over. We also have a large top vent as well as an exhaust vent out the back. Final little spec I want to hit on before we end this little spec section is the kind of glowing feature of this helmet, and that's that it comes totally pre-wired if you want to grab Schuberth's SC2 comm system that's literally powered by Cardo. We're going to talk about this later in the video, but it's awesome. Now let's talk about fit and comfort on the helmet. So as far as shape for the helmet, it's going to be an intermediate oval, which from what I understand is the majority of the riders in the US, so I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy the fit of this helmet. One of the interesting things that I found out when I first tried to put the helmet on, Schuberth actually sent me out a large and an extra large because I wasn't really sure what sizes I need, and I could not put the large on by just putting it on. I messaged Schuberth and I was like, I normally wear a large, I don't understand why I can't really get this helmet on, and I found out that if you are putting on a modular helmet, the correct way to put that helmet on is actually open up the face shield area and then kind of slide the helmet on and then pull the face shield down because the whole thing comes up, obviously, which totally made sense because once I did that, the large fit great because the extra large, I would get it on and it would kind of wiggle around. Definitely not what you want a helmet to feel like. So luckily, I was able to have 2 helmets, figure out the right size. I am a large in a E2 from Schuberth. Now, as far as the fitment, the padding feels really nice, and if you need different padding, Schuberth actually has different padding kits that you can get to go on the inside of the helmet to slightly change the shape of the inside. I will say taking the padding out of this helmet is very convoluted. There's a lot of different pieces. It's not like a lot of other helmets where there's a top piece and 2 side pieces. It gets a lot more technical, which I guess is good because you can customize it really well. Now, as far as comfort on the helmet, I did notice that the first week of riding in this helmet, it felt a little heavy here on my forehead, and it just took about a week for that to break in. I have been putting hundreds of miles in on this helmet, and I can happily say it's one of the most comfortable helmets I have in the garage right now, and one I keep going back to even though I'm done doing my research stuff for this video, but it did take about a week for that kind of break-in to happen, but once it gets broken in, it feels great. Also, as far as wind resistance on this helmet, the peak does like grab a little bit of wind, but if you guys are touching this helmet, you'll notice the peak is really kind of flimsy almost, and it doesn't grab the wind that bad. It just kind of wiggles around a little bit while you're going on a naked bike close to triple digits. Not that I did that, but if I did, it got a little unstable at about 95 up. Anything under that though is absolutely solid with no problems comfort-wise, which is awesome for a helmet with the big peak on the front. You always gotta be careful about that stuff. So to get a better understanding of what the kind of market looks like for this style helmet, let's put the E2 up against other modular and ADV helmets in its space. So we're gonna start out with a Shoei Neo Tech 3. It's gonna have a price tag of $899 and a weight of 1,695 grams. That's 3.73 pounds. It's gonna be a little heavier than the E2, and it's super refined, but it's more street focused and doesn't come with a peak. Next up, we have the AGV Tour Modular. Price tag $859 with a weight of 1,620, aka 3.57 pounds. This thing's gonna be sleek, lightweight, and have good airflow, but it's missing the peak and that dust filtration design that the E2 has. Moving on, we got the Climb TK1200. Price tag's gonna be $649 with a weight of 1,500 grams or 3.3 pounds. It's lighter and cheaper, but it's also noisier and lacks the comfort and integration polish of the Schuberth. Next up, we have the Arai XD4, which is a non-modular option, just a note. Price tag of $639, a weight of 1,600 grams or 3.53 pounds. Built like a tank, perfect for hardcore ADV, but no modular flip up and no integrated comm system or a drop-down sun visor. And finally, of course, we have the Schuberth E2, our helmet for today. Price tag $899, weight 1,675 grams or 3.69 pounds. It's honestly right in the mix on price and weight, but brings peak adjustability, dust blocking airflow, and Cardo-powered comms integration that none of the others fully match. The bottom line is, if you're bouncing around city streets to light ADV riding and don't want to sacrifice the comfort or the tech, the E2 might be the best middle-of-the-road helmet of this entire group. So let's touch on wind and stability. At city speeds and on back roads, the E2 is planning. Once you hit about 90 miles per hour, you start noticing that peak grab a little bit of air, especially if you're on a naked bike like I am on my MT10, or if you're doing head checks. It's not sketchy, it's just noticeable. Schuberth did a really good job designing that rear spoiler as well, because I've noticed crosswinds don't really toss your head around. And the helmet doesn't lift or shake like some other ADV helmets cause you to do. Honestly, for a modular with a peak, this thing's solid. Moving on, let's talk about the field of view in the visor system as well as the peak on this helmet. Now, as far as field of view goes, the helmet does a really good job of having a good wide field of view, and it has a good vertical field of view as long as you don't have things set up in a certain way, and I'll explain. So when I'm regularly riding with the helmet, for some reason I love the look of this helmet when the peak is all the way down. But if you guys notice on this helmet, when the peak is all the way down, it's really low, which is good because if the sun is really low in the sky, you actually have adjustability to make this peak come all the way down, which is super cool. And for some reason, I love the way the helmet looks with that. But the only downside is when you have the peak all the way down, your field of view vertically is a little tight. You don't have as wide a field of view as you would expect on something like a race helmet or something like that. That being said, the peak has 3 adjustable locations you can put it in. You just pop the little side lever and then you can move it up and down. I did notice that while riding, the peak does seem to wiggle around quite a bit more than I would kind of expect it to. I've never had any issues with it, and if you're gonna do all street riding, you can always just remove the peak entirely if you want to. I really like the peak there, so I'm not moving it anywhere. Also, let's talk about this drop-down sun visor. You have just a little mechanism on the left side of the bar, and it'll drop down the sun visor. A couple of things about the sun visor. One, it comes down really far. It almost will touch my nose, which means no sunlight is getting through that thing. And somehow, Schuberth did a fantastic job of whatever that material is. I haven't had any issues with it fogging up or anything like that. I really love not only the quality of the mechanism, but the actual, like, how low the sun visor goes. Talking about the actual visor of the helmet, it comes with a clear visor. I actually have a slightly mirrored version of the visor. I will note that Schuberth's mirrored visor isn't as mirrored as other companies that you're gonna expect, so you can kind of see through it a little bit. But overall, I've really liked having the mirrored visor, and they have fantastic detents, and the visor will lock into those places. One of the really cool things about this helmet is they call it like memory technology, but basically what it is if I have the visor cracked and then I open the modular part all the way up and I bring it all the way back down, the visor will still be cracked exactly where I had it. So I guess in the past, modular helmets, like when you open them, it must close the visor, and this one doesn't. I'm kind of new to the whole modular helmet game, and this has been the first one I've had in a long time, so that's a really cool feature. I wouldn't have even thought about it if I didn't read it on a spec sheet though. It's been kind of cool though. All right, so let's talk about ventilation real quick, something absolutely critical on these hot as hell days, and this helmet is solid. I really like the two front vents because I've done a lot of off-road riding with this helmet, and it's so awesome to be able to have my vents open and let air come into my helmet while riding off-road and not have to worry about dust and debris because the helmet's vents are made to block that from getting to you as the rider. Also, riding around town, I've had no problem having all my vents open and getting that airflow. You can actually feel the airflow coming around the helmet, and the visor can crack a little bit. So that way, if you want a ton of airflow, crack it a little bit, you'll have a load of airflow coming into your face. And hey, worst case scenario, you pop it all the way open and your face is open to the world. So you got tons of options, but even if you have everything closed up and use it as a full face helmet, the ventilation is solid. All right, so next up, let's talk about Bluetooth integration because it is easily one of the major highlights of this helmet, at least in my opinion. So the Schuberth E2 does come pre-wired with speakers and wiring all through the helmet, which makes the Bluetooth setup on this helmet the easiest it can possibly be as long as you grab Schuberth's SC comms system that is sold separately. Now, that SC2 comm system is going to run you around $349, but the good news is all of the brains of the unit are provided by Cardo, the same people that make the PackTalk Edge, which actually retails for $389. So the SC2 comm system is actually cheaper than a PackTalk Edge. Also, it's Cardo's, so like we know it's the best in the industry, so we don't have to worry about quality. So yeah, you're basically getting a slightly more affordable version of an Edge that comes with a couple drawbacks because of how it's integrated into the helmet. Here's what I mean. Speakers and wiring are already pre-installed, so the install process is literally plug the mic in, plug the pack in on the back, and plug in the Bluetooth remote on the side. That's all. That said, I did run into a couple of quirks. First up is the microphone. So the microphone just plugs into the front of the helmet and it's on this little boom arm. And I have had one situation where I was suddenly talking with somebody and they could not hear me anymore. I had to pull off and figure out what the heck had gone on, but what I noticed is if that boom arm isn't up against your face or your mouth, the helmet, when you bring the modular thing down, it can grab the boom arm and push the boom arm all the way down so it's not in front of your face. And if it's like that, you're not going to be able to be heard by the person you're talking to. Just something to note. Normally I have it just sitting right here, but I guess I was drinking something and kind of pushed it out of the way and totally forgot about it. Just keep that in mind though. Next up, the controls unit takes a little time to learn. This is coming from somebody that has a PackTalk Edge and I'm used to having that little scroll wheel and the 4 buttons around, but the controller on the side of the E2 does not have that scroll wheel, so things are a little different. I wouldn't say it's really hard to use, but when you're so used to using a certain unit and scrolling and doing all this stuff, and now you're having to hold for 2 seconds to do things, it has a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not really hard once you get used to it. One of the cool things though is that when you connect the SC2 to your Cardo app, it actually changes the look of the Cardo app slightly, and shows like SC2 on it. And one of the cool things about that is it has a digital manual that you can go into, and it shows you all of the controls and how to do the different things with your music and phone calls and stuff like that. So it's literally an Apple way to find out what the button combination is that you need to do what you need to do. So for that, I'm happy, but I'm also dumb because I can only handle so many buttons and combos and stuff like that. I don't play Mortal Kombat like I used to. Once you get it installed though, the audio is crystal clear, the volume is plenty loud, and the wind isolation that the E2 does makes it even better. So no, it's not included, but if you're grabbing a Schuberth E2 and you want a Bluetooth comm system, the SC2 setup is easily the cleanest and best way to go. It essentially gives you everything a PackTalk Edge gives you, it just gives you in a setup that looks factory and that you can't even tell it's there. So next up, let's talk about the Schuberth E2 as a moto vlogging helmet. I guess the question is the E2 a good moto vlogging helmet? And yeah, I would say it is. Now, I will say moto vlogging with the E2 is a little different than what I've been using in other helmets, and I'll kind of break that down for you. I started out with the E2 using my clamp on moto vlogging helmet setup, but there's so little space in front of your mouth in the actual helmet, I found it a little uncomfortable to have that clamp on setup on the E2. So what I went with is just getting a custom mount made for the Schuberth E2 that just 3Ms to the front of the helmet. That's been the easiest way to motovlog with this helmet, and I really like motovlogging with this helmet. I see myself doing that in the future, so I wanted to just go ahead and get that mount, but the clamp-on setup is possible, I guess, if you don't mind something being right in front of your face. Now, the major quirk with motovlogging with the E2 is microphone placement. So when I'm motovlogging with this helmet, I'm using the DJI Mic 2, which is that bigger unit that gives you the really nice audio. The problem is that unit is pretty thick. It doesn't cause a problem while I'm riding around, it just presses up against the side of my mouth, but it doesn't affect the way I talk or anything like that. The quirk that I realized is when I open the modular piece of the helmet, that microphone is so thick that when the modular piece comes up, that microphone will be pressed off of the Velcro that I have on the inside of the helmet, and the mic will fall down because there's just not a lot of space between that modular piece and the top part of the helmet when the helmet comes up.
That's the microphone, and you guys see how it wants to hit that upper area, and it would rip it off.
So the way I have to get around this is when I'm going to motovlog, I either have to have the modular thing halfway down and like pop the mic in and then shut it, or I can just have the helmet, the modular piece fully shut. I can open the visor and I just pop the mic in right there when I get everything turned on and going. I just have to get it placed in, and once I get it placed in there, it's good to go. It just sucks that I can't open the modular piece and the microphone stay there. I have tested this with the DJI Mic Mini, the little miniature microphone. It's a little smaller of a footprint and it's a little thinner on that side. For that microphone, you can let it sit there and open the modular piece up all the way. I'm just not happy enough with the Mini in all the riding situations where I can use that as a primary microphone yet. Still trying to figure it out, still trying to get it nailed. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about that. Doing a lot of testing, still trying to get it figured out. I know you're probably listening to this and being like, Chase, if you have to do that and the microphone's popping off, why are you even looking at this helmet as a long-term motovlogging helmet? And that's because of how quiet this helmet is. I'm not really sure if it's a modular helmet thing or if it's the E2 specifically, but this is a quiet helmet, and a quiet helmet means that I'm gonna have better audio for you guys, and it's a very comfortable helmet. Those are my two main things that I'm looking for a motovlogging helmet. I want it to be quiet, both for me and for my audio to be as good as it can for y'all, and I need it to be comfortable because I'm gonna wear this thing all the time. So this helmet does such a good job in those areas, it's worth this little finicky microphone placement. Now, talking about using this helmet as a motovlogging helmet, I will note something that has been kind of weird, but I kind of fixed the problem. So when I have my camera on the front, I do notice that the helmet wants to drag down because it's already a slightly heavier helmet, and when you're adding stuff on the front, you're just adding weight. And the helmet gets a little front heavy when you have all that stuff mounted to it, but I kind of solved that issue because I installed a brake free on the back of the helmet, and the brake free is not heavy. The camera is not heavy, but if you add one of them or the other, they kind of unbalance the helmet. But when you add them both at the same time, the helmet is like perfectly balanced. So I actually prefer, when motovlogging with this helmet, to have my camera on the front and a brake-free installed on the rear of the helmet. That setup makes it like this perfectly balanced helmet, and I really have a good time riding around in it with that setup on. So the question is, who is this helmet for? First up, I would say the weekday commuter that wants comfort and a quiet helmet. Next up would be the weekend ADV rider that's hitting light trails and gravel. And finally, the moto camper, the long haul tourer, and the gas station snack connoisseur. Honestly, this helmet just does a lot. No, it's not the lightest. No, it's not the cheapest. But if you're looking for one all-in-all helmet that does a lot and can do just about everything other than maybe sport riding on a track, the E2 is a fantastic contender. And finally, let's wrap this video up with a chase score. Comfort and fit, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It feels good out of the box, but once it breaks in, it is very comfortable. For ventilation, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's got good airflow, and with that smart dust blocking vents for off-road use, that is clutch. Now for noise level, I gotta give this thing a 9 out of 10. It is one of the quietest modular helmets I've ever worn, especially on the highway. Visibility wise, I'm gonna give this thing a 6 out of 10. It's got a solid horizontal field of view, but that vertical field of view can feel a little cramped, especially if you have the peak all the way in the lowest position. Now, weight wise, I'm giving this thing a 5 out of 10. It is a chunkier boy. It's not unbearable, but it's definitely not on the lighter side. That being said, I haven't had any neck strain, even after riding in this thing for 4 hours in one shot, so it's not that bad. Now for comm setup, I don't think it gets any easier. 10 out of 10. You literally don't have to do anything, then click, pair it to your phone, and go ride. It's the easiest it can possibly get. Now for motovlogging setup, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I'm only knocking down the 2 points because of that stupid microphone stuff that I have to do, because otherwise, I love everything about this helmet for motovlogging. Now for features, again, I gotta give this thing a 10 out of 10. It's the helmet that has the most features that we've done any testing on so far. Adjustable peak, drop down sun visor, it's modular, and that's just the beginning of the features list. It's stacked. Now for value for money, I'm giving this thing a 7 out of 10. It comes in at a premium price, but with the build quality and all of the integrations, it justifies that price. For durability and build quality, I'm giving this thing an 8 out of 10. It's definitely got those German engineering vibes with solid materials and a beautiful finish. That's gonna give the Schuberth E2 a final chase score of 80 out of 100. And there you have it, guys. That's my review of the Schuberth E2. If you guys have one, let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. And if you guys have any questions, drop them down there. I'll do my best to get to them. That is a fantastic place for us to have a conversation. I've only put a few hundred miles in on this helmet. I'm sure you guys out there have put way more in it than me. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and don't forget, use those affiliate links. They don't cost you anything, and they massively support this show. I'm Chaseontwowheels. You guys subscribe if you like motorcycle content, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.
God, this is gonna be really hard to do. This ice cream's really good, by the way. Let's go ahead and get prepped. Let's go. Remember, that's gonna take me a second. And you gotta hurry, we're losing the ice cream. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Wait, I've...
Oh no! My throttle's fucked up.
My throttle's f***ed up. My throttle's f***ed up. Hold on. Man, I really wanted to eat more of that ice cream. I'm kind of pissed. I think we got what we needed. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Quick Trip ice cream is actually really good. Oh no! It's falling to pieces! Damn it! This has been an absolute delicious fail. I'm gonna be so sticky for so long. Oh my god, it's going everywhere, Pat. Everything is sticky. Oh no. Damn it. Well, how is there ice cream on my dash? How did that happen? What is going on? Everything got the ice cream but me. The shit I do for YouTube, I swear to God.